Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Max Polyak at the Sea Turtle Rescue Alliance, and today I have the privilege of sharing an amazing guest, and that is the director of an affiliate center of ours in Italy. And I'm going to share the screen with you and have her introduce herself and her wonderful place.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. So I'm based in Lampedusa, that is a teeny island between Sicily and Tunisia, actually closer to Africa than Europe. This is a very strategic position because we are in the middle of a channel that divided the western basin of the Mediterranean Sea to the east basin, and this allows us to meet turtles that migrates from west to east, from north to south. So we resist, we endure in this little island where everything is more expensive and more difficult, because we know to be in a platform in the middle of Mediterranean that can give us a good opportunity to understand what is going with sea turtles. Our rescue center is known all around the world as the Lampedusa Turtle Rescue Center. Is a simple reality built only by volunteers and passionate people. We started about 35 years ago. Unfortunately, in all this time, we never had governmental or financial support, and all the costs of rehabilitation, of building a facility, of power, of food, of medicine, of travels are supported by the work of each volunteer. We work all during the winter, making lessons, educational activities, little markets for Christmas, for Easter, and during the summer we organize everyday educational tours, and we live only thanks to the generosity of visitors. So this makes me very proud of my team, because it's really hard to face the cost for 150 turtles every year. We are not supported at all by the local administration, that in reality is trying to make a new little rescue center just to have the opportunity to reach the European projects that are a box of a lot of money. So we fight quite a lot to spend money for turtles, not for consulants. In 35 years, I was supported by great people. Most of them were just volunteers for 1 week, 1 month. We have a great cooperation with the Surrey University, that is in England, in South England. Each winter they send us some students, and now I have 4 girls. And I'm really impressed by the participation, of involvement that they offer to our goals, that are education, first of all, sensibilization, and then of course care, rehabilitation, and conservation activities. Our best cooperators are fishermen. It's not easy to involve them, so don't think that we are so many. We are just, you can count on your fingers. But every year they bring us about 80, 85 turtles. We have a good cooperation with Sicily, and it's quite complex because we are connected to Sicily with a ferry boat that take 12 hours. And not all the nights he can travel, because it depends from the weather condition. But volunteers in Sicily are able to wait and to go every night to the harbor to see if ferry boat will leave for Lampedusa. Our vets are involved as volunteers, so they are not paid to work as this. Me too, so I work in the school in order to have a salary that can give me the possibility to live. And it's the same for all the scientific cooperators like Di Bello or Casale or other scientists that come here to develop their research.
Excellent. That's just an amazing history of the facility, and I thank you for recounting it. And you know, the challenges you have are really kind of inspirational to newer centers that are starting out, where you have to rely on volunteers and you have to rely on the collective goodwill of your community. And it's very inspirational to see that it can be done, and it can be done over an extended period of time with the right personalities and the right will and the right you know, combination of resources. So it's really great to see that. Now, in the Mediterranean, can you talk a little bit about the species that you see as patients and the life stages, and maybe some of the challenges? You talk about fishermen bringing in about 80% of your patients, you know, so are they hooked, are they entangled, or are they just debilitated, or can you speak to some of that for us? Yeah.
Yes, most of times we work on low grades. So this is a region where generally you find them, but we have sometimes also leatherbacks, quite young, about 5, 10 years old, so between 150 and 250 kilos. Just a few times we had green turtles, and they're very young. This surprised us, but our colleagues in Tunisia just collected a few greens, so probably they are moving a little bit more closer to the west part. Generally, we deal with hooks and lines, so surgery by esophageal access, inguinal access, and axillary access. Fractures, lots of entanglements, so unfortunately amputations of flippers, infections, and quite frequently we have decompression sickness, and this is something that we are not able to solve because we don't have a decompression chamber. So what we can assure to these animals is just warm and hoping that things will go better. We have a lot of interaction with plastics, but by now there is not impaction. So of course we collected data, and we see that year by year turtles expel plastics more frequently, but by now is not in danger of risk of life. What more? What were your questions? So yes, we don't, thank you so much for your kind words, but I don't feel successful in my little island. We are just 6,000 inhabitants, and I'm here since 35 years, and I'm teaching in the school, so I have the kids of my first students, but still now for my citizens, turtles are just an instrument to call visitors, tourists. They didn't. I was not able to teach them to love turtles and to understand their important values for the human survival. Instead of, my volunteers are really excellent with the visitors. We receive 30,000 visitors every summer, so just in 4 months, 5 months. Every time people enter only interested, and they go out that are sensibilized, that are interested to see turtles, that they remain in contact with this topic, and so they are a lot better than me.
Well, I mean, it's the challenges that you face, you know, on a small island, and you know, and culturally too. I think a lot of centers have exactly that experience. That, you know, convincing local populations sometimes of the larger picture of the sea turtle in the marine ecosystem and how that affects our own health. Those are challenging concepts to convey, and so it's you're not alone in that respect. You mentioned a little bit about other centers in the Mediterranean in particular that you may work with, may not. And one of the big efforts with the Sea Turtle Rescue Alliance is our collaboration globally with centers, and to integrate that collaboration in a more efficient way. Maybe can you speak to some of the centers that you do have relationships with, either on the research side, the clinical side, or both, in the Mediterranean? Or, you mentioned you're close to Tunisia. I don't know if North Africa is involved with you, but I know there are many centers in the area. So maybe speak to that for us a little bit.
This is absolutely the topic of my life. I'm a biologist, not a veterinarian, but I'm strongly also, if I took a master in veterinary medicine, but I absolutely believe that in cooperation. So at the beginning, it was quite difficult in a biological world to introduce veterinary medicine, because with the medicine you take care of an individual, and with biology you take care of a species. But I strongly believe in the connection. So no one is more important than the others. Of course, a biologist thinks to be better, and veterinarians thinks to be better. But in my life, I was quite lucky, because the great cooperation with Di Bello from the veterinarian department of Bari gave me the opportunity to propose to him to cooperate and to implement procedures, surgeries, technique, treatments, because in 20 years he had more than 2,000 surgeries and 4,000 animals under the eyes. So this developed a good cooperation, and I strongly tried, and it was not easy, because we are speaking now that is the third millennium. But when I started the first time to propose, for example, to the ISTS Society, a rehabilitation workshop, people told me, you are crazy, we don't care. Veterinarians, we go to their conference, and we are biologists. And the first time that we proposed a short movie of a surgery history with probably 10 seconds of images on the surgery table, people told me, stop, this is too hard for us. And they don't know that this turtle, thanks to this surgery, will be back in the sea. So we started in 2010 trying to build a group of people that could cooperate, because instead of to take care of turtles will not change the status of the species. Sometimes we release turtles, and after few weeks, people call us. They are dead again, for nests, for hooks, for plastic, for collisions. So you spend a lot of money, sometimes more than 800 euros, to take care of a turtle that you put again in an environment that is not good for him. But from these animals, you can keep a lot of information. So if biology and veterinarian work together, you can understand better what are the real problems of turtles and how to help the species. This is important. So it's a big cooperation. Little by little, in the years, of course, rescue centers have an emotional impact on media, for example. People are interested to the story of one turtle, not of a species. So you can, with a good rescue center, you can develop educational projects, and they are really important. You can develop sensibilization. You can influence the local inhabitants, but you can also to cooperate with science. And if you work with the standardized protocols, you can have data that are important for science. In this way, we could be all useful for conservation. And so in ISTS now there is a rehabilitation workshop. It's quite complex. Always you have people that are not biologists, are not veterinarians, but in front of an animal that is in pain, they tell, oh, tell me what I can do immediately. Nothing. You can do nothing. You are not a doctor. And people start to become passionate, so they start to become used to have animals on their hands, and sometimes they forget that we are not prepared to be a surgeon. A surgeon needs to be a vet, to have experience on surgeries, to know what is the anatomy and physiology of a sea turtle. And if I can give a suggestion to the young generation, they should study. It's not the same time when we started, me and you. Now you have books, you have papers, scientific papers, you have internet, you can find everywhere. When we started, it was more complex. To find bibliography on sea turtle medicine was quite complex. So after this rehabilitation workshop that allowed me to be in contact with the others experts around the world, we tried to make a group that could develop training courses. And so every year we try to participate to some international training courses and to allow young generation to have some basis to develop. In the Mediterranean, it was easier because we met since the Sea Turtle Conservation Biology Conference. It's more than 20 years that we have this meeting. So I met all the other rescue centers. We have about 25, 30 rescue centers in Italy. They are not all rescue centers. Sometimes they are just places with tanks and they cooperate and they drive turtles to the experts. But I know all the rescue centers in the Mediterranean, and sometimes it's complex to find the financial support, but when it's possible, we try to develop training courses, but we try to guarantee connection. So to be available by WhatsApp, by Messenger, by Facebook, and to give information, to give help where it's important. And also in the Mediterranean Conference, we have a rehabilitation workshop that allows us to share experience, different traits. In Mediterranean, we have some great experts that will work in different medical fields, and this allows us to feel like a big family.
That's terrific. The workshops and the relationships that you've built in the Mediterranean and the regular meetings that you have, could you speak maybe a little bit about how someone could get involved either at your center specifically as a volunteer, or perhaps getting, if they're interested in further training, they're maybe a young veterinarian or they're a young biologist, or they just want to make some new connections in that part of the world. Are there opportunities that you could share that and direct people that might have an interest in studying more about the sea turtles and the ecosystem in the Mediterranean specifically?
Of course, yes. The events that are organized by association like the American Society for ISDS, or by the RAXPA with the Biology and Conservation Conference. Of course, we can just you need to be inscribed and you participate. But all young people in the Mediterranean knows that they can call me, they can arrive, and we try always to cooperate. This summer we organized the Twitter Turtle Talk, and it was a kind of to present to the young generation what it can be done actually. But you need to be clear. You need to study. If a young generation don't start by the first level, that is to know physiology, anatomy, and they know how to do, it will be impossible to go through. And then medicine is not only surgery. Surgery is a part, is a technical part, but you have also microbiology, you have microbiome, you have infection, you have bacteria, you have viruses. So there are a lot of physiology, there are a lot of other fields that should be taken care by the younger generation.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, as a sea turtle veterinarian myself and researcher, and I have the sea turtle textbook right back behind me. we're very lucky to have that resource, but there are still within that really fantastic textbook, there are a lot of gaps still. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of things that need to be still, questions asked and answers. And they fall in all of those regions. So it's not just surgery, it's not just medicine, like you mentioned. There's microbiology, there's ecology, all kinds of different fields that need to synthesize and collaborate together to answer these really important questions about an individual animal, about a regional population, and about the global population too.
For this, I think that is important to participate to all the meetings, international meetings that are on sea turtles. And I appreciate more a lot when veterinarians come to the symposia or conferences, because it's an opportunity for them to go deep in a field that generally veterinarian don't study. So ecology, ethology, population dynamics. And so it's absolutely important to mix. For this, I'm absolutely convinced that cooperation is an important kind of answer that we can give to the risk of extinction that sea turtles are unfortunately facing.
Exactly right. And we in the Sea Turtle Rescue Alliance too, we share exactly that mentality. And that's why it's so important to hear it from you too. You have so many years of experience and you've seen, so many things. I can't even imagine what your favorite would be. But if you could limit maybe, to what's your favorite sea turtle experience or patient or a favorite of anything, kind of in the sea turtle world that you can share, because it's always fascinating to me what that question triggers in people's minds. Like, sometimes it's a single animal, sometimes it was an event or a person even. So please share whatever you'd like in that regard.
Always I avoid the personal event because I think that the subject are turtles. So I try always to remember that they are the protagonist. I'm just a tool to help them. And turtles, but of course, all of them are so important, and I have them all on my heart. Sometimes students have to take data from the data sheets that we have since 30 years, and they are surprised that just with the number I can remember that turtle, because all of them have a particular space on my heart. And generally, if they were successful stories, I'm happy. But I'm more touched by the unsuccessful stories because these turtles died and they teach us a lot. When you make a necropsy, you can learn a lot. So it's a kind to give them respect and to tell sorry that you die, but thanks to you, I could learn this. But probably what for me is more important is to see the passion of young people. And in this, I'm really lucky because I'm supported by, if I have to tell you, 90% of volunteers are really young students, to see how much they become passionate and determined, and they start shiny, and then they develop their own way to do, and how much is important communication, or to see how a young vet can become sure of his technique or her technique. And we have now a young veterinarian coming from Sicily, and he started, he never made a surgery on sea turtles, but he was a good surgeon. He is very young, 30 years. And then he developed a very good technique with esophagus access, and then he wanted to learn the inguinal access. And then when I see in their eyes their first complex surgery, how to deal with a complex case, this touched my heart. So generally are little moments. Now when everything is finished and you see this young person that have now a new skill in his hands, in her hands, this touched me a lot. But generally people don't realize that I'm living my best moment of the day.
That's a great story. I love that.
Or for example, a turtle that is not breathing, and finally she makes her first breath, and okay, now everything is good.
It's a big relief, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the, I think it's difficult to appreciate, even someone who has medical training, when you see an animal that goes under anesthesia, like a marine reptile, how very different they, even though they're vertebrates and so forth, how very different they perform physiologically under anesthesia and then when they recover. And it can be scary.
Yes.
Terrific. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully one day I'll be able to come out there and visit your place. I have a lot of family in Europe. Both my parents were born and are immigrants, so I've gone over there from, but not to your place. I'd love to visit one day. Okay, and we hope to cooperate together because for me, one of the most important things now that I joined this age is to cooperate for the training of the younger generation. So count on me for everything. Wonderful. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, have a wonderful rest of the evening. And thanks again. Okay, bye-bye. Ciao. Ciao.